What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly sports history for January 27th, 2023. Before we get started, be sure to check out the latest Back to the Future. Posted it last night, did a little trip down memory lane about John Chaney on the anniversary of his birthday and his death. Definitely a good listen, brought back some good memories, some that I had even forgotten about. So it was good for me to just go back. I grew up loving the man, loving those teams. So it was fun to take that trip down memory lane. So be sure to check that out, Back to the Future with a PH, wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. If you subscribe to the YouTube channel, the video was posted last night, so you are good to go. But definitely give it a listen, give it a like and subscribe. While we're on the like and subscribe, if you're listening to this and you haven't done so already, be sure to like and subscribe this, whether you're listening on podcast, whether you're on YouTube. Be sure to leave comments. All of those things help the algorithm out. And one of my goals this year is to start growing this a lot more and getting out and reaching more people. So you guys can help do that by liking, subscribing, commenting, tell your friends, neighbors, whoever. Just be sure to help a brother out. Also, I wanted to go back to something I said yesterday then, too. We were talking about the 82-83 Sixers and the win streaks that they had that were over 6 games. And I mentioned this year's Sixers team. And so far this year, they have 2 win streaks over 6 games. They had the 8-game not that long ago. I think it was like in between Thanksgiving and Christmas, I believe, or it might have been Christmas and New Year's, however that worked. And they're currently on a 6-game win streak. They've been red hot since Thanksgiving. So hopefully they can continue to have a couple more of those 6-game plus win streaks, especially with their schedule coming up. Flyers lost last night 3-2 in overtime to the Minnesota Wild, I think it was. So definitely not a bad thing for them, especially since we are trying our best to get in there. So they're still, I feel like they are in that, no matter how much we're trying to will them out, they are in that purgatory zone, so to speak. And I mean, they're just good enough to not make not get one of those top picks, but they're not quite good enough to be in the playoffs. And it's kind of like a death sentence. And there was like the 30 for 30 years ago, the death penalty that they talked about the SMU football team. It's almost like the Flyers right now are in a death penalty almost, because they can't move up, they can't move down. And the only thing we can hope is get lucky with one of those lottery. I think they actually use ping pong balls, so one of those lottery picks come to us. But 3-2 in overtime to Minnesota last night for the Flyers. It is Eagles NFC Championship week, so very, very good positive news out of Eagles camp yesterday. Avonte Maddox practiced for the first time since before Christmas. Looked okay, was able to move around. I know he was moving around late last week. He's officially listed as questionable. And the hopes, from what I was reading around the NovaCare complex, is that he will play, which is going to be a huge, huge bump for that defense. It just gives them, like I said the other day, it gives them flexibility where you can kind of zone is probably going to be your key to with the 49ers and all of their weapons. But it also gives you C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who can stay in one spot, and whether it's Debo or Brandon Ayuk, shut that guy down. And then now you have the guy to help deal with Kittle, and then you got the linebacker. Like, it frees up the linebackers then to see McCaffrey and Debo or whoever out of the backfield. So if he can play, this is huge, huge news for the Eagles. Also, McCaffrey and Debo both ended up on the injury report for the 49ers. And I was reading more and more reports that McCaffrey was banged up against Dallas with his calf Achilles area. He was doing a lot of stretching and things like that. And he's definitely not 100%. But one thing I will say, I had him on my fantasy team for a couple years. Like, the guy's going to play unless his leg literally is falling off. And I've seen him have his leg fall off one time, get taped up, come back out for a couple plays, and go back in and play. So it's going to be a fun game. It's going to be tough. But I will say this week, all the talk's been about, the number one ranked 49ers defense, And I like the fact, and Hassan Reddick even kind of alluded to this in one of his tweets. What about the Eagles? They're a top 10 defense. They're a very opportunistic defense. You have a rookie quarterback. I don't care how good Brock Purdy's playing. So nobody's talking about the Eagles defense. And that's okay. That's okay. Let it go. And as far as that number one 49ers defense, also nobody's talking about the number one Eagles offensive line. And it's sure, like, you can have the best defense ever, but you know what neutralizes that? A good offensive line, which the Eagles have the best offensive line in the league. Just throwing it out there. They might be overlooked. It's hard when you're 14-3 on the regular season and you blew out the Giants the way you did to come in as an underdog, but this might be that straw that angle that helps the Eagles out this week. We don't know, but that's all right. Keep talking about the 49ers defense. We'll be all right. But this day in Philly sports history, we're going to stay with the NFC Championship theme, go back to 2002. And on this day, the Eagles took on the Rams in St. Louis in their first of 4 straight NFC Championship games. The Eagles that year, for the 2001 season, it was our first year with tickets. They went 11-5, won the division, got the 3 seed, beat the Bucs, and then the Bears on the road to get there. And sometimes it's often overlooked that the Eagles led at halftime, 17-13 in this game. Deuce and Todd Pinkston had a touchdown in the first half, and Jim Johnson had a good defense dialed up for Marshall Faulk and the greatest show on turf. And for the most part, they locked down the receivers. Like Torrey Holt and Isaac Bruce weren't doing much. And for the first half, like I said, they shut down Faulk. And then Marshall Faulk remembered who he was and came out and just dominated, scored 2 touchdowns in the second half, and the Eagles didn't have an answer for him. And everybody kind of thinks of Marshall Faulk as this finesse running back who catching screen passes in this. He ran the ball 31 times in that game for 159 yards. And sometimes it gets, because of how prolific that offense was, it gets overlooked that he wasn't a small guy. He was short, but he was a kind of a solid bruising type that he didn't have to, but when he did, he was able to, and that's what he did to the Eagles in that second half. They just kind of wore down that defense, and it was definitely the Marshall Faulk show. And we knew going in, it was a young team that overachieved at that point to get to the NFC Championship game. And Donovan, the big story was he stayed on the field to watch the Rams celebrate because he wanted to just remember that. Little did we know he would lose his next 2 times out in the NFC Championship game. But that's okay because he finally did win one. But if we only knew then what we knew was going to happen within the next 5 years for the Eagles, I don't know what we would have thought. Like if you just said, hey, you're going to lose this game, but here's how the next 5 years are going to play out, including the post-TO drama, it would have been, I probably would have taken it. Who am I kidding? I would have taken it in a heartbeat. But this day in Philly sports history, the Eagles lost to the Rams 29-24 in the NFC Championship game. The Rams would actually go on to lose to Tom Brady, who was going to his first Super Bowl. And again, I still think about that. What if the Eagles had gone there? Could Tom Brady and Donovan McNabb's careers kind of gone the opposite way? But, oh well, on this day, the Eagles lost, but they would be back 4 more times in Donovan's career. But go have yourselves a Friday. Be sure to check out Back to the Future. It's a good listen on John Chaney. If you're a John Chaney fan or a Temple fan, I definitely recommend checking it out. But enjoy your day. It's Eagles. I'm pumped. I cannot wait for this weekend to come. It cannot come soon enough. But go have a Friday. And until next time, I'll see you when I see you.